The Superstition Mountains are home to more than just lost gold. People go missing, maps change, and some say the mine isn't hidden, it's waiting. Welcome to Whispers After Dark, where shadows talk and the night listens. If you enjoy unsettling true-style horror, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell, comment, and tell us where you are from. Now, let's get on with our stories. They say there's gold buried deep in the Superstition Mountains, but the mine was never lost. It was sealed to keep something in. This is the story of the thing in the dark. They always think the curse is about the gold, that it's greed that gets you. The long hikes, the wrong turns, the 100-degree days with no water and no shade. And sure, those things kill people. But that's not the part that gets whispered around desert fires or passed down in journals. No, the real curse isn't the mine. It's what guards it. The thing that waits, just out of sight. The thing that watches you long before you find the first glint of gold. Devin Price wasn't the first to go looking, but he might have been the first to live stream it. He was known for his YouTube channel Off Trail Truth, a fast-growing wilderness exploration channel blending history and conspiracy. The kind of content that flirted with clickbait but backed it up with solid research. Old weather stations, cult ruins, ghost towns. But when Devin announced a week-long solo trip into the Superstition Mountains to find the legendary Lost Dutchman's mine, his numbers exploded. He promised history. He promised danger. He promised treasure. What he delivered was something else. He left from the Peralta trailhead on a Sunday morning with a loaded pack, solar gear, backup batteries, and a plan to edit a documentary on the mine's history when he returned. But every night he'd go live, real-time thoughts, footage, theories, and anything strange he found. The first two streams were upbeat, long hikes, sunburn jokes, old rock piles and abandoned tool fragments. Day 3, the tone shifted. He mentioned finding something, a shaft or tunnel where there shouldn't be one. His GPS pinged outside the mapped trails. He joked that it smelled like iron and ghosts. Chat engagement was massive. Everyone wanted to see inside the mine. But he said he'd wait until daylight to explore it. The fourth night was different. When he came on camera, his face looked wrong. Not injured, but pale, thin, his eyes sunken like he hadn't slept. The fire crackled behind him, but he didn't even glance at it. The chat blew up with concern. His breathing was shallow. He kept pausing mid-sentence. And then he started talking about the Watcher. He didn't call it that, not at first, just something tall. Said it had been following him since sunset. Not moving, just standing, far enough away to doubt, close enough to feel. He held up the camera and panned the ridgeline. Nothing there. But his voice shook when he whispered, "It's always in the same place, no matter where I go." He said he'd gone into the mine. Said there were markings on the wall, tallies or letters or something he didn't recognize. Said he felt like he was being pulled towards something. Not physically, not like gravity. Mentally, spiritually. Like a magnet for the part of his mind that still believed in things he couldn't name. Then came the line that would make the rounds in Reddit threads, paranormal channels, and conspiracy forums for months afterward. "I don't think the mine was lost. I think it was sealed, to keep something in." The stream cut out 2 minutes later, just static. When Devin missed 2 scheduled check-ins, his brother called for help. A joint search and rescue effort began the next day. They found his last pinged location, an unmarked canyon, miles off trail, near a cluster of ancient petroglyphs. His camp was still intact. Tent zippered, food sealed, backpack leaned against a stone. Inside was everything, except Devin. There were no signs of a struggle, but there were footprints, a set of bare feet leading away from camp. They wound through narrow canyons and rocky switchbacks. Then they just stopped. Not faded, not dragged, just stopped, mid-stride, like the person had vanished into thin air. That's when they found the cave. Not wide, not deep, just tall enough to walk inside. hidden behind a boulder, almost too perfectly placed to be natural. The entrance reeked of rust and something faintly sweet, like spoiled honey. Inside, they found old mining tools, a rusted pickaxe, scratches on the walls, the tally marks, hundreds of them. But no one stayed inside long. One searcher reported hearing whispers. Another claimed the tunnel pulsed like it was breathing. The radio signal inside was dead. The temperature dropped 10 degrees. A team member threw up the moment they stepped through the threshold. They marked it and moved on. No one ever found Devon. The stream archive was removed days later. Copyright strike, they said, though no one could trace the complaint. But screen captures survived. In one, barely visible in the dark curve of the canyon wall, something tall and thin stands at the edge of the firelight. Not human, not quite. And behind it, faint but unmistakable, a glint of gold. Some say he found it, others say it found him. But the legend's older than YouTube, older than cameras, older than names. There is gold buried in the Superstition Mountains, but the mine isn't lost. It's kept, guarded, and every few years, it takes one more soul to protect it. They say some treasures pass down through blood, not as an inheritance, but as a curse. This is the story of cursed blood. His family said he was obsessed, that he forgot he had a family, and left reason behind the day he stepped into the Superstition Mountains with nothing but a shovel, a notebook, and the belief that the lost Dutchman's gold was real. He said it called to him on those lonely nights on the mountain. Some called him crazy. Others called his obsession madness. But the truth is, he didn't vanish because he got lost. He disappeared because something waited for him. Something old. Something hungry. Years later, when the desert finally spit out the journal he'd carried, sun-bleached, faded, and covered in sand and dried blood, his children, Mara and Caleb, should have burned the journal and let the legend die with it. But they didn't. Mara insisted it was just a story, something to finish for closure. Caleb didn't believe in curses, but he believed in answers. He wanted the truth. He needed to know why their father had spent the last months of his life poring over old maps, why he stared out the windows at night, why he turned all the mirrors to the wall and mumbled about something watching in his sleep. The journal mentioned a place beyond Weaver's Needle, a cave with no shadow at midday, a black crack in the earth that hummed if you put your ear to it. Mara read the words out loud, half mocking them, half afraid. They hiked in before sunrise, packed light, avoided the trailheads. The superstitions weren't gentle, even in cool seasons. The rocks shredded their boots, thorns snagged their packs. Birds moved in silence overhead. No wind, no buzz of insects, just heat and stillness. It took them 3 days of hiking before they reached the base of the cliff their father had circled in red ink. They both felt it. A kind of pressure, not physical but heavy, like standing too close to an old grave. It was late, and they made camp. Mara woke Caleb in the middle of the night. She insisted something had been in the tent with them. He checked outside and found nothing. It took several hours the next morning before they found it. The entrance to the cave looked exactly like the sketch. Narrow, jagged, no sign of life around it. Mara stood at the edge while Caleb went in first, phone light cutting into the dark. The air smelled strange, metallic, thick. They didn't speak as they walked deeper, but both of them heard something, the soft scrape of movement far ahead, too far to see. It could have been animals. It could have been anything. But it wasn't. The tunnel opened into a chamber. Walls shimmered faintly like something wet had dried there. In the center of the room was a pile of bones, animal, human, impossible to tell. Mixed into the dust were fragments of metal, a belt buckle, a rusted rifle barrel, a tiny, gleaming coin. Caleb stepped forward and touched it. That's when the chamber pulsed. Not visibly, but through the air, like sound without vibration. The light on his phone flickered. In the recording later recovered from Mara's phone, there's a moment where Caleb turns around and looks at her. And his face shifts, blurs like he is someone else, but not entirely. just enough to unsettle. His eyes look too wide, his mouth too calm. He says he's staying, that the gold is close, that he can feel it breathing. Then he walks into a smaller tunnel on the far side and disappears into the dark. Mara waited, called, screamed. He never came back out. When the rangers found her days later wandering barefoot near the canyon rim, dehydrated and whispering, all she could say was that Caleb had found it, that the gold had taken him, that it didn't want her. The notebook was found stuffed into her pack. The last page had been torn out, but impressions were left in the paper beneath. Etched over and over again in uneven handwriting, it runs in the blood. The cave has never been located again. Every time a new map is drawn, the land shifts, trails vanish, coordinates don't match. But every so often someone finds a coin in the dirt just west of Weaver's Needle, smooth, warm to the touch, and too new to belong to something so old. They say the mine isn't hidden, it's watching, and it knows the names of those who come looking. He walked out of the Superstition Mountains with a gold nugget in his hand. He didn't leave alone, something walked out with him. This is the story of cursed gold. They found him sitting alone at a rest stop near the edge of the Superstition wilderness. He was caked in dust, lips cracked, eyes bloodshot. A ranger spotted him slumped against a stone picnic table around sunrise, clutching something in his hands so tightly that blood had dried down his wrist. When they finally got it open, they found a gold nugget, heavy, smooth, and still warm to the touch, as if it had been buried in flesh. He had no ID, no pack, no shoes, just that nugget. And a whisper he kept repeating over and over, "It's awake now." No one knew who he was at first. It took a few days for the pieces to come together. His name was Joel Mercer, 42, solo backpacker, amateur documentarian. He'd posted on a few niche forums about planning a trip into the Superstitions to trace the route of old Spanish mining trails. He mentioned something about finding a cave marked on a 1914 geological survey, one that didn't appear on any modern map. He uploaded a single video before going dark, a short clip of the desert at sunset with the caption, "Following the gold." He spent the next 3 days in a hospital under observation. The doctors said he wasn't dehydrated enough to explain the mental fog. He answered questions, but always in fragments. Said he'd gone too deep. Said the rock wasn't right down there, that it moved when he looked away. That he saw gold bleeding from the walls in veins that pulsed like arteries. When asked if he'd seen anyone else, he went quiet, then said, "It saw me first." At first they thought he was just rattled, maybe a head injury, but the staff began noticing strange things. Joel never seemed to sleep, yet his chart showed a consistent drop in his heart rate between 3:12 and 3:16 a.m. every night. He wouldn't let them take the nugget, said it had to stay close, that it wasn't finished with him yet. On the 5th night, a nurse doing rounds said she heard a low humming coming from his room. Not electrical, not mechanical, something deeper, vibrational. When she opened the door, Joel was standing barefoot in the center of the room, staring out the window into the dark. Smiling, he said, "It's almost ready." The next morning, he was gone. Security footage showed him walking calmly out the side door just before sunrise. No shoes, no bag. He wasn't seen again. But in the weeks that followed, hikers reported strange sightings near the base of Bluff Spring Mountain. A man in tattered clothing, barefoot, standing on the ridge at dusk. Always silent, always watching. A group of college students camping off trail claimed they saw him from a distance, smiling, unmoving. One of them wandered away in the night and was never found. His boots were later recovered, placed neatly side by side on a rock ledge overlooking the canyon. Later, someone posted a thread on a desert survival forum. Said they'd found an old trail camera deep in the backcountry that had been there for years. Most of the footage was corrupted, but one file played. It showed a man crawling out of a narrow canyon, tattered clothing. He stares at the camera for 13 full seconds. then smiles. The thread was deleted within hours. The user who posted it never responded again. They say Joel found the mine, or maybe it opened for him. The gold is real, but it isn't treasure. It's bait. It's the skin of something older, waiting to be touched. And once you take it, you're part of it. The mountain doesn't always swallow you. Sometimes it sends you back, but you won't be alone, and you won't be you anymore. Truth or legend, what do you believe? Gold hidden deep in the desert, a mine sealed by blood and secrets. Some call it treasure, others a curse. Either way, too many who go looking never come back. Sometimes the line between truth and legend blurs, because every legend starts somewhere. Maybe the mountain chooses who leaves and who doesn't. Maybe the gold really is cursed, or maybe it was never meant to be found at all. Thank you for joining us tonight at Whispers After Dark. Be sure to like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss a story from the shadows. And remember, stay curious, stay cautious, and beware the Whispers After Dark.